Looks like, there we go.
Oh,
Go
we're live,
live.
baby.
Hey,
Get it
we're
on.
live, baby. Veteran biker JT combining forces for Pogey bait. All those little sweet nuggets of goodness in your
Any
military
devil dogs know
rations
what?
right there.
Yeah, any jarheads know what pogey bait is. If you don't, you see. I never knew the crayon thing.
Yeah.
Like I never heard the crayon thing till way after, and I heard the crayons. Like, what does that even mean? Most of the dumbass I knew were in the army, but I wanted to start off this topic. I sent you the message. We didn't even talk about it. You put in rule 2024, the year of war. I'm like, I could see that. And then what came to my mind was Geneva Convention rules of engagement. 20 years kinetic warfare, guerrilla warfare in the desert. We've been fighting like the redcoats, and our opponents, our enemies, have been fighting like guerrilla warfare, right?
Yep.
And you see what's happening. You've seen what's happening with Hamas. It made me think of that, where they get under a hospital, and it's like, well, Geneva Convention says unless the enemy's firing from the hospital, it's a no win to set our men up, men and women up, primarily men that are fighting these battles. But we need everybody. I said that somebody commented here on Pogey Bait about, hey, I was on the Air Force, I did this, I was support staff. I'm like, listen, without the support people, there is no tier, team 6. There is no Delta. There's no MARSOC. So number one, but rules of engagement, we have to get back to reality. And I talked about that. I mentioned to you on Jameson's travels way back. Guys like, what are you, a war criminal? No, I want my SEALs like Eddie Gallagher, what he was accused of doing. I want my Marine snipers who shot the guy, was stupid enough to take a cell phone video of them urinating on him. I want my Marine snipers like that. All of it. Every bit of it. I think Genghis Khan, I put something out, and you can, when I'm done with my rant, you can tell me what you think. I put Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great. Genghis Khan said, if we come, you lay down your arms, no one does anything, you're fine. If one person does everything, you're all done. That's the kind of war we're looking for. When you think about what's going on in Gaza and what Israel had to contend with, and there's a lot of people who hate Israel, hate Gaza. I quite frankly don't care about either of them. I can care about our shitty inflation, our border. But if you're going to talk about it, kinetic, these ships floating around the Red Sea are going to get hit sometime by the Houthis, in particular American ship, Gulf of Tonkin-esque, and we're going to have to deal with it. So we need to rethink that, but it won't happen. What do you think, Ben?
I think you bring up a good point. I think many times we play by the rules, and bad guys don't play by the rules. It's like putting up a sign that says no pew-pews here.
Yeah.
Only they work so well. All these schools have signs, no pew-pews, yet everybody, these are easy targets. And whenever we put troops downrange with restrictive rules of engagement, when we put ships in the Red Sea with restrict rules of engagements, they're just punching bags. And if you go to any gym, you've been to the gym a lot, I have too, punching bags don't hit back. I've never been knocked out by a punching bag. I've been knocked out by running my mouth and somebody saying, hey, time for you to shut up. And that's what needs to happen. It's kind of ridiculous. I did some reading about the Geneva Convention, and it goes into, you're not supposed to treat prisoners badly. You're supposed to feed them, give them, sustenance, but you're also not supposed to torture, eradicate, or remove them from, from what they're doing. Treat them somewhat
Right.
humanely. Now, I'm okay with treating you humane, but when we're on the battlefield, the rules are off. Rules are off. And I don't really like what's going on. You mentioned the Houthis. I've got a topic for later that goes directly into that, but I agree with you completely. I want my SEALs to be SEALs. I want Delta to be Delta. I want Marine Force Recon to be Recon. I want my Marine snipers to try to be the next Carlos Hathcock. That's what I want. That is what I want. I want that method. It's like in college football, I want my offensive line to be the biggest, meanest bullies on the field. And we need to take some ground. And that's why they should be taking some ground. And I think Israel right now is doing that. Hamas is getting pushed back. And I tip my hat to Israel.
Don't get me started. I'll put a bow on it with this. We get to the next topic. We talk about, proportionality. You saw that all over the news, proportionality in war. And I go, who is talking? Who is typing this? If you get the advantage on something, that's not proportionate. You have the advantage. If you set up an L-shaped ambush and you execute that ambush, That's not proportionate. And you want lethality. Like you hear this in the news, you even hear experts. I'm going, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're going to send these young men and women, where they're sitting on a ship in the Red Sea right now. They get Marines sit on that ship. They get deployed off there. They get involved. They bring in the big army. Part of the Geneva Convention, my last thing, and I don't want to spend too much time on the topic, is it says water horses and provide tobacco. It also says don't use CS gas against the enemy. We use that on our own troops, our own people. So, I mean, it's very antiquated, and it's a problem if we go to fight the same battle that Israel's fighting. Again, I could care less. I'm concerned about my southern border. I'm concerned about inflation. That's what I want to care about. But since it's in the news and they're flooding the tunnels, people go, oh, it's illegal. I love that. It's illegal in war. I can drop a bomb on you, but if I drop phosphorus bombs on you, it doesn't work. But if I drop a regular JDAM on you, that's fine. I mean, these people, it reminds me of Apocalypse Now. They can drop napalm on their head, on the enemy, but if they write fuck on the helmet, it's a problem. I mean, that just comes to mind every time. What do you got next, Ben?
Next up, I want to know what Biden has given you over the last 3 years. It's Christmas time. I want to know what kind of festive gifts that Biden has given you, or basically just kind of big picture. What do you think Biden has done for the United States over the last 3 years? What's his big gift been?
Well, I think the Mpox was one of the things I got. I was at Pride for a week, Leatherfest. No. What's Biden done? The first thing he came in and did, and this leads on to other things. First thing he said, I'm shutting down the Keystone Pipeline. Done. Before that, he told the unions, I'm not shutting it down. No problem. It's great. Shuts it down, says to domestic energy, I'm crushing you. We're going green. And you immediately see the futures of energy skyrocketing. Because what happens is if you're a big energy company, you're not going to invest $100 million in a project if you've been told we're being shut down. You're not going to find new ways to refine gas that's more efficient. So I know what he's done. He's increased fuel prices, doubled. I mean, diesel is still $4 a gallon, which it was $1.70 something I was paying the day he came into office. So he's done that, which is gone all the way through the economy. The Inflation Reduction Act reminds me of changing the Department of War to the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense used to be the Department of War. All these things like the Patriot Act, and then we spy on U.S. citizens. The Inflation Reduction Act. So Biden, number one, to answer your question, has taken inflation, and even if it was there before, because of COVID, he skyrocketed. He threw fuel in the fire. He said, the winter of death and despair if you're unvaccinated. He separated people even further. He says, if you're MAGA, you're not part of America. I don't even know what MAGA is. I'm just not left. I vote for people against the people I want. I didn't vote for Hillary because I didn't want Hillary. I didn't vote for Biden because I didn't want Biden. Whatever that is, I don't know. Inflation, more division, just Obama 2.0, bottom line. I mean, you can see it right in front of us. Embarrassing, gets up there and dawdles, says Putin's a war criminal. He's a murderer. And that doesn't work when you're trying to deal with people, when you're trying to jockey around on the world stage. You look foolish. After that same point in time, we had just dropped a Predator drone strike on somebody who was delivering water. Things happen. But just the foolishness, the stuttering, that's just the beginning. What do you got, Ben?
My big thing is, I think the one thing he has taught the American people, or given the American people, a lot of them lefties, liberals, Trump wasn't that bad. Trump wasn't as bad as they built him up to be. The economy was better. I think people didn't hate each other as much. When Obama was in, people were taught to find racism everywhere. You could go to the gas station and pump gas, and something about the gas pump was racist. We had 4 years of Trump where people seemed to be able to, number one, buy gas for less than $1.80 a gallon. Number two, it seemed like people were getting along. And you get Biden back in, and he stoked up this hatred, this neighbor hatred. So I think the one thing that he's done is showed that the 4 years under Trump really wasn't that bad. I know it was a little more affordable. Mean tweets, cheap gas, bring it on. That's all I gotta say. Bring it on, mean tweets, cheap gas. I'm ready for it. You give me $1.50 a gallon gas. Hell, at one point, I think diesel used to be cheaper than gas.
It was historically years ago, and then more recently, it got the same.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons why people will say supply and demand, all these things. No. You tell domestic energy, I'm killing your business. They're not going to invest in refining, trying to recoup their costs. I mean, as an investor in some energy companies, you see what it does. I mean, I could read the writing on the wall of an investor. anyway. You got anything else on the
Maybe you
Biden?
think, maybe I think that he's trying to raise inflation so much that the illegals coming in have to self-deport because they can't afford anything.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I mean, maybe that I really don't understand anything that he's given us other than a perception of the previous 4 years under the previous administration, and then just the one big term, hypocrisy. Because everything that he has accused everyone else of doing, he's been doing himself, and he's been caught. So that's all I got for the Biden Christmas. I got you.
Let me hit on something.
Go for it
before you go to the next topic.
Yeah.
Think 1966. Think two professors, social workers, Cloward and Piven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably heard about that. You know, what you want to do, they said this, and this was accolades of Saul Alinsky, Obama, Hillary, all trained in Chicago by the same group. You want to overwhelm the social services network, in this case, welfare, so we can go further and break it so we can have universal basic income, basically, right? So we can get to socialism more. And then you hear, you know, that's the basic gist of Cloward and Piven, okay? Now you see the border being wide open. You see what's happening in Chicago and New York, and they're like, we can't take this. This is Cloward and Piven, like, defined. Like, you couldn't be more on point with Cloward and Piven. We just thrust in the third world who can't make it where they're at into America and just cripple all the resources to mean even hospital systems. English as a second language. I mean, we could go on and on how this works. Think about that. What do you think? I mean, Cloward and Piven, 66, they were talking domestic. They probably even thought about, because no one had an idea the border would ever be this open. But you thrust them in, and even if they just end up at the hospital and they don't have welfare yet, that hospital's somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
Your Affordable Care Act, you're paying. I mean, somebody's paying for it. There's no freebie at the hospital.
Yeah.
What do you think about that before we get on to your next topic? That Cloward and Piven, what you know about it?
I think I think what they were onto was there's so much follow-on effects from the border, from things on the outside coming in. It's hard to take care of your own when there's so many outside entities. And I think that's exactly what the border has done. It's brought problems to communities that weren't ready for it. I really do. Cloward, Piven. I read Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, and it seems like just the playbook that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Of everything for changing the dynamic. Obama said he wanted to change America, and I believe he really did.
Yeah.
Fundamentally changed. I think that was his quote, right?
Everybody should listen to Rules for Radicals. You can listen to it for free on YouTube, or you could listen to it. It's a little bit dry. See his interviews. It's what's happening. It's just now you can see it in video. What else you got, Ben?
Okay, next up. I think there's a big surge in New Hampshire. Looks like Nikki Haley's about 4 points off. And my big thing with Nikki Haley, and I'll start this one off with Nikki. When Nikki Haley left under the Trump administration, she filed for bankruptcy. She immediately joined the grift, got on the board of Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing. Last year, after being bankrupt, she bought a mansion in South Carolina for $2.5 million. $2.5 million as a board member. Now Nikki Haley has gotten on this grift, gotten on this wave. She is running for president. Nobody ever really wants to say her full name, which is Nimrata Haley. She comes from an Indian background. It's always Nikki. You know, that's the cool name. Nobody ever wanted to say Barack Hussein Obama. So no, that's why they don't want to say Nimrata, because it would reveal some of the issues that she's got. Now, Nikki Haley, she's on the grift. She's on the grind. She's in New Hampshire. Sununu, the New Hampshire governor, I don't know why I know that guy's name, but I do. He's that irrelevant. Endorsed her. They're trying to push it. You get the Fox News pundits pushing this. You get the different CNN pundits that are pushing it. Nikki Haley came out a couple of days ago urging Democrat voters to vote in the Republican primary. That's all I got for Nikki. I'll turn it over to you. What do you think about Nikki being the next candidate for the Republican Party?
I think she reminds me a tad bit of Hillary. I don't think the middle class white woman, and that's the demographic they're trying to hit, would like her. There's always kind of a rift. Like, she comes across I mean, the constant war thing. Wasn't she the UN ambassador? Was a
Yep,
failure at
UN
that? Was that
ambassador.
her role?
Yep.
She's. Well, just take what she's saying now. I don't remember her in the Trump administration worth of shit, but nonstop. Let's go bomb Iran. Let's do internet ID. I mean, she sounds like George Bush 2.0, except at least George Bush kind of, you could go, well, I know that guy. He's a rich guy that's kind of not that with it, but he's all right. She doesn't seem that way. She comes across to me as trying to be, she's turned too fast. And even though the Democrats love war, I mean, they couldn't, the war. I don't know. She's like Lindsey Graham in drag. I just don't know what else to think of her beyond. That's what I see from her. Internet ID, you have to have it. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You want war all the time. Both parties do. Now you want internet ID. And she went on and on about that. There's a lot out there where she's like, well, people ought to give their real names. I can tell you why I don't want my real name used. Because I don't want people trolling my kids because a bunch of lunatics.
Yep.
Really simple. But I don't think she's electable to the base.
No.
I think if she did win the nomination, the turnout would be really bad because she just seems like it's the same retread, like a Mitt Romney, John McCain. Well, I mean, and she's so adamant about it. And I just haven't heard anything beyond. I want to hear from one of these people. Economy, border. That's all I want to hear. I don't want to hear about Israel. I don't care. I just don't. Sorry, not sorry. I don't care about Gaza, Israel. That's their problem. They've been dealing with it for years. Just don't care. And I did put out a great thing on locals. You may want to check in there, Ben. Anybody can see it on my locals, jameson.locals.com. But anybody can see it. It was why the bottom line here is, I should have given it to you in advance. It was why is Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt not taking Palestinians? And it was a history of them taking Palestinians and what happened. That right there, off topic, I know. That right there was like eye-opening. I'll send it to you when we're done.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I think Haley is latched on with the Bush regime. She even kind of looks like Mitt Romney and drag. Until I see them both in the same room, I'm going to assume that she's Romney and drag till I see it,
Yeah.
For those of y'all that are just tuning in, me and JT talk very little during the week. We send some kind of cryptid coded text messages with a couple of topics, and that's about it. And I throw stuff at him, and he rebukes it, rebuts it, and then we kick it back and forth. And that's it. That's the beauty of the channel. And we look at it from different perspectives. Next up, I got, we'll lighten it up a little bit here. Give me your take why the United States just doesn't ask Mexico to become the 51st state.
I think immediately Puerto Rico. What does Puerto Rico add? I mean, not a state, obviously, but what do they add as a territory? I mean, just a money suck. What about that congressperson that represents the U.S. Virgin Islands, who is like a lunatic?
Yeah.
We don't need that. I mean, that place. I mean, think about if it was the 51st state. Think about that for a second. How would you ever get control of that with the cartel money? I mean, these cartels have a GDP bigger than most countries and power. You see them now kitted up. I mean, they've got the best of the best. They've probably been trained by all tier 1 guys, the best of everything. And they might as well be. Seems like no one cares. At one point, Trump's like, we're going to do something like we're going to tax remittances back to Mexico. Anything like, hey, Mexico, I can give you money. Like, we're going to stop something until you control your border, because Mexico can control their own border. In particular, people are coming through Mexico City, flying from Sudan to Mexico City and then getting ferried up on UN buses. But no one wants to control it. Mexico doesn't want to get in the way of the big Western countries. Yeah, they know where their bread's buttered. They don't want to touch that. But the cartel controls the whole country at this point. They figured out methamphetamine. I mean, why would you ever bring cocaine anymore? And they've got, like we talked about before, all the raw materials come from China. They're processed and manufactured south of the border. And they come up to us. And until people, 30% of the country just like they said in Sicarios, shooting stuff and snorting stuff, it's not going away. We have a demand. And it's problematic when you encourage it to. It's already a problem that comes across the border. The next problem is we've just said, hey, if you live outside and you're a drug addict, a needle hanging on your neck, we can't do anything for you. Yeah. We don't have enough health care to solve it. So families got to engage with their kids in advance and deal with their own problems. We as a government can't fix the drug addict problem. People got to manage their own families. And you guys got to step up and say, my brother's a lunatic, I got to deal with him. Because no drug rehab facility can. What do you think about that, Ben?
I want to know how many people in the chat go on vacation to Mexico. I will never, ever go on vacation to Mexico. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you're going to the resorts, you're going to the cities. Every individual that crosses into our southern border has been put there and allowed to cross by the cartels. When you come through the southern border, you're allowed to cross by the cartels, or you were put there by the cartels. The people working in these resorts, these resort towns, are allowed to work there by the cartels. The cartels controls everything. They control the government. They control the elected officials. They control everything. And I don't feel like I need to ever go to Mexico and donate indirectly to those cartels. I mean, it is mafia level where the cartels go into the hotels pay so much for safety. It's all kickbacks. That's what it is. I mean, turn on an episode of The Sopranos and magnify it times 100. I will never go to Mexico on vacation. I think of it as very hypocritical. The best thing that I could see ever happening for Mexico is for us, and I know this sounds horrible, for us to send 2 battalions of Marines to the southern border with a very definitive offensive rules of engagement plan. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. Right. But for us to go into a offensive posture on the southern border against the cartels, and I'm sorry for the people that would get in the way, but that's the only way that we're propping up. Basically, the cartels are Houthi rebels at our southern border. They're the Taliban at our southern border. They are Hamas at our southern border. They are a terror group at our southern border. They're doing exactly to us what they're doing to other countries: Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, Yemen. That's all it is. And until we do something directly engaging them, it'll never stop. And I don't think our government, I mean, our senators, these amazing senators that we got that talk all these good games, will never acknowledge it, will never do anything to it. Joint Chiefs of Staff won't. Where's these military congressmen? Like the Latrells, the what's his name, Crenshaw, Tom Cotton. Where are they at? Where are these military leaders? We've got what's his name, Zinke. He was a captain of a SEAL team up in Montana. Where are these military minds going to the southern border? That's what I want to know. That's my problem. I'll never go to Mexico.
Last comment on this topic.
Sure.
We could hire the Wagner group, and I bet you within 30 days it'd be solved.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm talking the Wagner group that's a 4-letter word, right?
Yep.
Because I can tell you what the rules of engagement are. 0.
Yep.
They are all over the place, all over Africa. They're hired just like PMCs were, but now they're, Vice did a big thing about the Wagner group. And I laughed, just the way they framed it. They even framed the U.S. kind of good and Wagner really, really bad. And it was fascinating to watch. What else we got, Ben?
Okay, next up, let me see here. Latest news. You're not going to see it on CNN or MSDNC, but I did see a snippet of it on Breitbart. Putin is open to a ceasefire, and I'll let you kick it off. Why aren't we hearing about it?
Well, no one wants a ceasefire. Like Nikki Haley on the board of every big military contractor. There's no money unless we're sending them munitions so we can resupply our inventory. I've heard people say, we'll just get rid of the old stuff, sending it to them. I'm like, if we were just selling them, if the military, Northrop Grumman and Boeing were just selling them stuff, fine. We're not just selling them anything, not paying us back. None of it makes sense. I don't think they want a ceasefire. And I think it's dead news. I think there'll be a ceasefire. They'll talk about it, and it just will drift away because right now, I know you're on Twitter. It's nonstop. The Gaza-Israel thing, I've got Gaza-Israel whiplash here. I just can't. I don't care. I'm sorry. What are we going to do? That whole region's a disaster with respect to how they feel, other countries feel about Israel. And, I propped something up. I said, there was 19 hijackers, right? None of them are from Iraq or Afghanistan. So if we really cared about our problems in that region, we look at the list of hijackers. We'd realize none of them are from Iraq or Afghanistan. I mean, who was funding them? And we keep harping on Iran now. Let's Iran. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm trying to get track here. I'm looking at hijackers, where they're funded by, what passports they carried. They weren't Iranian passports.
Saudis, right?
Now they could have. There were Saudis, UAE. I mean, was one from Egypt. But when I hear, I hearken back to that. We talk about the ceasefire, and what excuse me, what happened is we've gone on to something new. I think it's going to happen. It'll go by the wayside. We'll never hear about it, and we'll have, just like with Cuba, we'll have a bad trade relationship with Russia. In Cuba, can't we trade with Cuba to this day? Does anybody know?
Yeah,
we
no
trade
kidding.
with the CCP. I mean, does that make sense? The Uyghurs. No one talks about the Uyghurs. I mean, I'm all over the place in that answer, but I just don't think it rates anymore. Where people moved on, they've got enough out of Ukraine. That's all they got to get enough from us as citizens to care. Obviously, I stand with people. Still talk about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't see them doing anything, but I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that Putin comes out and says he's open to a ceasefire. The White House, nothing. Crickets out of the White House. It's just, Putin's evil. Putin's evil. We got to send more funding. I would think if you're really, if Joe Biden's going to get his Nobel Peace Prize like Obama did, why isn't he promoting this? Why isn't he pushing this? This would lower the burden on American troops, definitely lower the burden on American taxpayers, lower the burden on shipping goods and services over there and military equipment. I mean, why not? What is wrong with this? I don't understand it. Blinken has not mentioned it. It wasn't mentioned in the with Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokeshole for the White House. For a news agency to come out and say Putin's open for a ceasefire in a little blurb and nothing come out, that's very misleading. Now, I know Biden's busy at Camp David. He flew down there on Marine One with Hunter. He's going to celebrate a nice little Christmas. There's probably going to be more white powdery stuff than what's on the ground outside. But something needs to be done. Someone should be contacting the White House and contacting the Kremlin and saying, hey, let's make this happen. Let's do this. This is good for everyone. But I don't understand why not. That should be headline news is what that should be. But it's not. If you check out some of the run of the mill lamestream news websites, it is Colorado. That's it. That's all you see on the news. Ukraine, Russia, they've been at war for the better part of 2.5, almost 3 years. Mm-hmm. The second mega power in the world is open to a ceasefire. That should be headline news everywhere. Should be headline news. That's what I got for that one.
Yeah, that's what else we got. That topic is mind-numbing, the whole Ukraine-Russia problem.
Well, I got one more for you. This is a good one. Iran came out today and said they're going to close the Mediterranean. We've got a lot of warships over in the Med, and now Iran says they want to close it. What's your take?
Iran reminds me of the neighbor you had that was annoying as hell and cocky, and then they won the lottery. They're worse. It's like every bad quality you can stick on them. You look at Iran what we took out before the Shah came in. We took the Shah. I can't remember the exact fact pattern right now. My brain's a little fuzzy. Like, say Iran when Kennedy went to visit. Google that. Kennedy visits Iran. Look at how they're dressed. Look at how the place was, right? It was pretty Western. It was normal, like women dressed normal and the whole thing. Normal as in Western. We get involved with the CIA. You can look at the history, but Iran just, the more money they got, the more militant they got. And all that does effectively, because the people at the top, they're sitting in the Mediterranean on their 100-foot yacht going to strip clubs in Vegas. They want you to live like that. So their government's no different than a communist government in the way they say, you guys do this, we do this, but we really don't do it, right? They're going to take over the Mediterranean. Give me a break. I mean, I think they'll let them do it. Let's just go tinfoil hat for a second. I think they, being the leadership apparatus, will let Iran venture into it a little bit, and then we'll have to get engaged because they want a war with Iran. Who's they? Again, the leadership. We had Miley come out, and it was in his book. I mean, he wanted a war with Iran, and the Joint Chiefs wanted a war with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
what that's going to do, where that goes, and we see what happens when we destabilize these countries. I mean, this other party we destabilize and more dangerous than the one we had in place. We were just giving them pallets of cash. Obama traded with Bo Bergdahl for pallets of euros and dollar bills. And then Biden does the same thing.
Yep.
And now we're going to war with them. The whole thing, it's like nobody wants this. So since we're not a democracy, you have to go to your representative and say, listen, I elected you to look out for my best interests. I want no more war. None. Zero. I don't care what the reason is. None. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the money. Nope. Can't do it. I don't care what your district is, because they need to hear it. If people did that en masse every day when they're home in the district, we wouldn't have the same problems. If people are so disengaged, so far removed from their politics, it's like people don't know how to change their oil. They don't know how to deal with their own politics of their country. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, the whole Iran dictating whether the Mediterranean is open is an insult to every country around there. Spain, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, all of the countries in Northern Africa, Morocco, Gibraltar. You know, it's an insult for Iran to think they can control that. And by the way, Israel is a shoreline in the Med. So it's an insult. I don't know how the United States, we've got so many warships that are there. The shipping through the canal there is so vitally important. For us to even acknowledge Iran saying they're going to shut it down just shows this ever-loving level of weakness that, you know, we're going to let them do whatever. When is Joe Biden going to say, hey, Iran is corn pop and I need to kick their ass? That's what I want to know. Remember corn pop and Joe ran him off the playground? Right, when is Joe going to find his new corn pop? You know, that's what I think. And we've got the Navy to do it, but I don't understand why. It just kind of chaps my butt. It really does. And that's all I got. Iran.
China's sitting back, just waiting to take Taiwan. Oh, yeah. I would be shocked if they did it over the next week or two. Why not? I mean, it is cold there and rough seas, so probably not. China's Navy, albeit large, doesn't have any of the experience our Navy's got.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the Brits had the Navy forever, and our Navy's unmatched.
Yep.
With anybody else in the world. Period. End of story. And you know, they keep talking about China. They keep talking it up. They don't have the capabilities. They have more ships now, the way I understand it. But yeah, I find it to be fascinating. Death to America, yet we're giving money and people are pro-Hamas now, and Iran as well.
I got something here I want to show you. And let's see here if I can get it up and not like that. I've got something here. I want to bring up. Let's go right here. So this is the cover page for CNN. And for all, I wanted to demonstrate some of the differences of what the news agencies are talking about. This is front page of the CNN. And I'll let you talk about this one first. Their headline, bold left, after a devastating fire, look inside Notre Dame's restoration. Tourists will be able to enter the Paris Cathedral next year following a $760 million restoration. Is that headline news or is that headline news? Are you planning a trip to France after this?
I mean, the places, you've been to France, right? It's always a protest about something. I've been to France. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast there, right? And I've seen some of the pictures on the restoration, and I think they're making it not like basically a religious place. They're making it into something else. All religious
artifacts removed.
They talked about having like a mosque or some kind of other. I mean, I was reading some incidental articles on it. I'm going, what?
Yep.
What are we doing? Just like when we saw, it's no different. The Grand Central Station, the whole thing was blocked by people with a call to prayer. A little off topic, but close enough. I don't mind if you do the call to prayer. If I have to get engaged with it or around it 5 times a day, it affects my life, I'm not tolerating it. I mean, I'm not tolerating. If I were going through, I saw that happening, thinking to myself at 18, my boys were walking through there and people were blocking me. There'd be hands thrown. I don't know what's happened to people, maybe because cell phones are out, people are paranoid, but it would be like, get out of my way. I don't care what you're doing. Get the hell out of my way. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's happened, including in Paris. I mean, the Notre Dame Cathedral will be nothing like it was. Of course, they'll make it into something else to fulfill the sacrament to their woke God. They'll have a prayer closet. These people don't like you. I'm not talking average Joe Western Muslim, but the ones we're seeing that are creating the problem, I've yet to see the Amish, woman with the suicide vest on. I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen the Mennonite, the LDS.
No Mormons either. Yeah.
I haven't seen the Catholic guy running around. I haven't seen the Buddhist one. So there's something's common here. Now, am I against those people? Absolutely not. I got friends like that are in that religion of peace. They also admit it's a little bit behind the rest of them in the evolution of not adhering to it when you get to the extreme ends of it. And that is the bottom line. But yet, when you read who the extremists are in America, it'll say white veterans, patriots, preppers.
Yeah.
The FBI, Mike Glover released that, and did a good article on it. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the problem now.
My thing here is CNN caters to about 35 to 40% of the population. And looking at the headlines we got Notre Dame, we've got Trump urges the court to grant him immunity. We've got a Christmas Story star, Peter Billingsley, settles diehard movie debate. We got a Major League Baseball star giving a Porsche to the wife of his teammate. We've got a police say a Florida mall shooting may be the targeted act of violence. There is nothing on the front page about the southern border. We got a new movie about the boys in a boat. We've got a personal essay from a grandmother. We've got two strangers met when their flight was delayed on Christmas Eve in 75. NFL fans to be treated to a blockbuster on Christmas Day. I'm assuming Taylor Swift's going to be there, something like that. But CNN is supposed to be this, this modern news channel, and that is the garbage that they're giving America right now.
And Ben, here's the problem, the real problem. Most people, not the ones watching, most people are slow information. They see CNN chyrons. I was in an office the other day, and this was, I can't remember, it was a business, normal business, nothing. And they had MSNBC on, and the chyron was on mute. And so they either have MSNBC or they have CNN. And so when you see it enough, you turn it on, and you go, and you're a very low information person. How do you get them motivated to show up? Midterms show that people are motivated. I mean, Republicans squeak by, which is a very bad sign.
Yeah.
If people aren't motivated, we're going to get the same thing in 4 years of corn pop. 4 more years, the gloves are off. There's no worry about reelection. Doesn't matter. You can tank the economy. You do whatever. There's no worry about anything. So that is a real problem when you see what we've got, especially in the House now, where the people that 2 years ago, people were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Laura Boebert, Matt Gaetz, I guess, has still stepped up. But, there was these loudmouth type of folks in there that you could kind of resonate with. It was maybe outlandish, but they said things that were important.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Totally gone. And, I put some on Twitter. If you guys don't follow me there, you should. I put some on Twitter and I said, if they can whack a president, why can't they arrest one?
Yeah.
Who is they again? The leadership apparatus. We can't see the JFK files. And we even had the guy who's been parading all over, who was the head of the CIA forever. I can't remember his name, or the fat guy.
Oh, Barr, Trump. William Barr.
Yeah, Bill Barr, right?
Bill Barr, sorry.
He was all over the place. And Trucker had him and said, hey, why don't you release the files? Oh, yeah, well, it's a national. And we know why they can't release them. But they'll wait so long, go, well, there was somebody over here, and it's all settled. But now when you see what's happening, the context makes a big difference. Context of FBI kicking in Trump's door, 10 years for a meme guy, 4 years for a guy with horns who was escorted around the White House, who later, when the footage drops, they go, oh, you're out. I don't even, again, we said this last time, I don't know how he got out of prison. He was just out. Yeah. He had 4.5 years. He was just gone. Like, all of a sudden, he's on the street. Never hear a word about it. So this, what you're seeing on the CNN page, we text about that. It's important. That's what normal people see in their feed on Facebook. A lot of people get the news from Facebook. I don't. You guys probably don't. A lot of people do. And that's what they get fed. And until we have a bigger grassroots effort, because the left has got a collective grassroots effort. And I don't want to be collective, but sharing links, saying, hey, listen to this guy. He's a complete moron. But sometimes something resonates. And they go, huh, border economy. It's the economy, stupid. If you harp on that, and just like Barry said, and then I'll let you, excuse me, go on the next slide. Barry goes, well, how could Trump just go like that and help the economy? Hey, how about reduce some regulations from the Federal Registry? Reduce regulations, people are more apt to invest because it doesn't take an army of lawyers to do anything. Really, really basic. I remember Barry saying that. And Trump comes in and Federal Registry got whacked by like 40%, which is all the regulations that are never in law that are determined by unelected bureaucrats. What else you got?
Next up, I was watching a show with Cardone. He's a big investor, real estate investor. Cardone says that 2024 is going to be the largest market correction in the history of the United States, going back even to the Great Depression, because everything is overvalued. The Fed has propped up everything with interest rates. And I'd like to know what you think about, I mean, we live in different parts of the country. So, I mean, drastically, and there's a lot of people watching, economies in different parts of the country are different. But Cardone, well-versed real estate investor, he's calling for a huge market correction. Millions of people are about to be upside down on their homes. And the number that he gave for the amount of people that are driving around, probably the second largest loan that they own in their vehicles, was stunning. I'd love to know what you think about it.
Well, I think I mentioned before, this is the worst in history that car payments are more than 90 days behind. So that right there tells you a lot, because people let their house, it's hard to kick somebody out of a house. Take some time. A car they can put on a rollback and be gone the next night. So you've got that as a good barometer. You've got all these people. When I was traveling all over the country, and I go to somewhere, say Spearfish, North Dakota, talk to a guy at the brake shop. What's it cost you to live here? He said about $1,800 a month to get a trailer. I said, why? He goes, I'm from here. I can tell you why. The Airbnbs. So all this money people got, the phony money from the Inflation Reduction Act, which got pumped in, hit middle management. They got these bonuses. They went and bought a place. Sometimes they borrowed against the house, put some cash down. All that's going to come to roost, because you've got these Airbnbs are all over, and they're all leveraged up. Often people borrow from their house, throw some cash in from their bonus, buy this thing. And people just can't afford it. When you see, that was in Spearfish in Livingston, Montana, outside Yellowstone, just a hill country, nowhere. I blew out a turbo pipe on our bus. Guy came. He's from Colorado. Same question. What's it cost you to live here? Middle of nowhere. Same thing. $18 a month, trailer, Airbnbs. So I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, the economy is propped up. When you look at, stock price to earnings, you go, wow, how could this be? All these stocks that don't pay a dividend. At some point, when inflation's like it is, normally the stock market goes down and bond prices go up, but they haven't gone up the normal amount you'd expect to see, right? Like lending rates would go up, but the stock market keeps doing well, and bond prices have gone up, but they haven't gone up like you typically saw, like Jimmy Carter timeframe. Yeah, mortgages are 18%. So that's coming. So I mean, whether it's coming for Q1, Q2, Q3, I think it's hard to dunk it this year. I think they're going to keep propping it up in 2024, because if they dump it before Biden, the election, there's a real problem. So I think the Fed will do whatever it can to prop up Biden.
Yeah, I think you're right. And he alluded to that the Fed was just trying to keep interest rates tamped down. And the one thing Cardone said, that the Fed should get out of the way and let the market correct itself. Now, I'm sure a lot of you all have been out Christmas shopping, things like that. I made sure that I pay for 99% of the stuff I have with cash or a debit card. I think one of my credit cards, I've got like $85 on it, and it's like a Sam's Club card. So I get like rewards back or whatever. But I was getting gas today. There was a guy in front of me at the pump in front of me. I saw him try to use 4 different cards to put gas in his truck. And that resonated with me. And one of the reasons I put this topic down, because Cardone's talking about market correction. Everybody's out spending money like a drunken sailor. And I know what drunken sailors spend like. And it took him 4 cards to put gas in his car. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here? And I know it's not just that one guy. It's just the one that I saw. And there's a lot of people living, if say the water heater goes out in their house, they're upside down, disaster. Or say that something goes out on their car, they lose their job because they can't fix it and get to work. And I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it everywhere. I know costs of everything have went up. Costs are about to go up as well if they close that canal. If the Iranians close the canal, costs are going to go up. Remember just last year, whenever there are all these container ships in California that couldn't get unloaded? That's going to be another thing. Food costs have been up. I know Biden said this is the cheapest Thanksgiving, cheapest Christmas, whatever. We know that's a damn lie. We know it's a lie. And I only buy gifts for two people. And I try to tell them not to buy a damn thing for me. Everything I have, I've got. I don't need anything. But with that Christmas giving. But it just seems like the new way. 30 years ago, the American dream was white picket fence, 2 kids, nice house. Now I think the American dream, just getting by. I think so many Americans are just getting by. And even the people in these inner cities that used to get all this like government funding, that's getting shrunk because they're giving it to somebody else that's coming through the southern border. That's what's stemming people up. Rumor has it, I got a good source inside the Beltway in DC. Trump is about to go to the South Bronx and hold a rally. If he does that, hold the door is all I got to say. Hold the door.
I want to throw out a last thing on that topic.
Sure.
If you look, here's a barometer, a canary in the coal mine. You look at pre-emissions diesel trucks, what their value is today compared to what it was even, say, I got a 2008 5.9 Cummins, okay? I got a good deal on it. I bet I could double the money on that truck right now because I'll tell you, here's why. What's going to happen in 10 years when people who bought those cars that are coming out today can't fix them?
Yep.
They're not capable. They don't have, like, this truck, I could fix it. Everything was real basic. I get the parts easy. You can't change. My buddy has a 2022 1-ton. I'm looking in there. He's like, he's a mechanical. He goes, I can't fix anything in here. So fast forward now, people, because last time we had a correction, used car market went to the roof, right?
Yep.
But you can't get them fixed. So now with battery cars, let's just start with that. Where does that go long term? We don't have the ability to get that old car, get the transmission done by our neighbor who can rework it for you, $1,200. You can't do that anymore because now it's a computer. Now as quickly as you figure out a way to reflash it, now you got to go to the dealership. So they're making it harder and harder. So every time there's a correction, it used to be, hey, used car market skyrocketed.
Yep.
Anyway, that's an interesting phenomenon. Like if you want to get a tractor, I think it's around 2011. Pre-2011 tractors with similar hours will go for more money than a couple years after because they don't have DEF on there.
Yep.
And it's not because people hate Obama. They want a tractor that works. Therein lies the bottom line. When I bought an excavator and a skid steer, I bought that dually. I wanted something with no DEF. I couldn't get around with a tractor, no DEF, because I know how to fix it. If it's a DEF problem, and that extrapolate that out now to things you can't fix. Yeah, there's a significant problem. What else we got, Ben?
The last thing I've got, and it's kind of ties into a lot of things. I saw the poll numbers on a couple of different websites, including Rasmussen. Joe Biden's polling lower than Jimmy Carter. He's polling at 37%. Lowest polling for a sitting president in the history of our great republic. Do you think it gets better? What helps it get better? And ultimately, do you think Joe Biden will be the candidate? And after we hit this topic, we'll go through some comments. And if people have some comments, feel free to drop them in there and we're going to hit those. But do you think Biden's going to be the candidate? And what does he have to do?
I think Biden, I go back and forth with that quite a bit. We've talked about it. I think he will be the candidate. And I don't think his numbers change. I don't think he can do anything to fix his numbers himself because he's not capable of getting to the soul. Like even old Slick Willie, Bill Clinton could get to you. Even like George Bush, you go, okay, he's relatable. Barack could be relatable. Trump could be relatable. But he's mentally void of reading the room. There's a problem, and they got to amp him up with amphetamines to get him to do something. Like they're giving him Adderall or something to get him motivated. You can tell the difference between he's perky, not perky. I don't think he's capable of doing it. Even if he wanted to lie, it's not the same Biden we had, 5 years ago. So I think he'll be the candidate. I mean, I know what you've said. Like everybody's pushing for Michelle, or we're going to get Gavin Newsom. You know, I don't think we'd have a JFK on it because Kamala's not capable of doing anything. She's so off-putting. I think he'll be the candidate. I think unless we have turnout based on 2020, I think if we get the turnout we have the midterms, I think Biden wins. I just think that's, going around, sitting here, people are so disengaged from the news. All they got in their head about Trump is what they see, what they're allowed to see, the crafted narrative. He's not on Twitter, which was his big platform. We're getting close in the game, but I don't know, because I think, big chunk, 25% of the Republican Party in Congress, they hate Trump. They've come out and said, ad nauseum, so many of them, I won't vote for Trump. I won't do it. Never Trumper. Just like Ben Shapiro was, just like Mark Levine's, just like the Blaze guy. The list is long and never Trumpers. Ben Shapiro did not vote. He says he's not voting if Trump's on the ballot. That was in 2016. All right. So that's who we've got, is the leadership now. Then I see people like Benny Johnson going on at the hopium about something else that's not relevant. It's real simple. Economy, border. Everything else is garbage. You could resonate with anybody you talk to about the economy. And you can talk about some fixes, some mistakes that were made, and that would hit. What do you think?
I think right now Biden's the candidate, unless something physically happens to him with some kind of health problem, something along those lines. If the Democrats get rid of him, they just admitted his 4 years were a disaster. And I don't see any Democrat ever admitting what happened over the last 4 years is a disaster. I mean, I've got Democrat friends, and I ask a lot of them, tell me why you voted for Biden without using the word Trump. And they gag.
Good point.
They can't say anything. They have no reason as to why they voted for Trump or voted for Biden without using the word Trump. And then I say, what has improved in your life since Biden's been in office? Don't use the word Trump. They have no answer, because every measuring stick is a failure. It's a failure. Fuels more, schools are horrible. There's all these different social agendas. The military is failing. House prices are up. I've got some friends, Democrat voters, that can't move because the interest rate on the house they want to buy is too high. The interest rate they're living in is 2.8, 3.0. They're comfortable living there, but they want to move and they financially can't. They're trapped. And I said to them, so you're trapped. You voted for Biden. Do you blame Biden for this? And I say, give me an answer, but don't use the word Trump. And they can't. And I urge any and all of these people in here in the chat, when you get into an argument or you get into a conversation, just say, tell me why you voted for Biden. Don't use the word Trump. It is a conundrum. It is like putting a ball gag in their mouth. They can't talk. And with that being said, I'll shut down the timer and we'll get to some comments in here. I've seen some good comments flying. Scroll back up here to the top. One of the first ones that I saw was really good. Let me see here, right here. Where we at? Here we go. This is from Notio's 22. People who romanticize warfare ain't been through nothing. And he talks about LARPing. And I think LARPing's where they dress up like Dylan Mulvaney and they pretend to fight.
It reminds me of the Ukraine bros from Reddit who decided to go to help Ukraine, and they were doing like selfies on Twitter. They got just evaporated into pink mist. The romanticizing, it's a great point, of combat, where people have, anybody you've talked to who was all gung-ho, like the guys that were sharpening their K-bar, they're like cowering in a hole. Here's my flak jacket, bro. Dating myself. But, people just don't, they're LARPing, cosplaying, whatever term you want to call it. And those people who talk about the most, like the Lindsey Grahams, the Nikki Haleys, will never go, and they'll never send their kid, and they'll never send a relative. They want you to go.
Yep, I agree completely. Notio's 22, that's a great comment. The people, it's kind of like the people veterans. It's kind of like the veteran community. The veterans that talk about their accomplishments. Man, I had 50 jumps. I did 8 deployments. I did this. I did this. The guys that are the loudest didn't do anything. They were fob commandos, in my opinion, because you look at the DD-214, it's like, oh, you got 4 months of foreign service. How did you accomplish all that again? And I think that's romanticizing it. I think some of these YouTubers get on here and, some of the bros, and they talk about equipment and they talk about this and deployments, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to romanticize it. Absolutely. Another good comment in here from Cora Davis when we were talking about Haley. She says Haley's a psyop for big corporations. What do you think about that? And Cora, thanks for the comment.
I mean, it seems like that is her whole shtick. I mean, if I was going to go parade around and talk about what I was going to do and I was leading 2 or 3 in the polls, I'd be talking about the economy and talking about, here's my platform for the economy. Here's how I'm going to secure the southern border. Don't say send troops. Don't say that, because the rules of engagement are basically the welcome wagon. They're handing out, fruit snacks and water bottles and escorting people in to the air-conditioned bus. Okay, I don't want to hear anymore about we'll send troops. Unless you send troops with a purpose. Okay, we'll build a wall. We'll build 2 layers of a wall. I want bouncing Bettys.
Yeah.
I want Claymore mines.
Tripwires.
Here's the thing. I don't want you to cross this border. Here's the point of entry. If you're crossing the border, you're an enemy of the country. Illegally across the border. I don't care about your problem. We are dead effing broke.
Yep.
We're broke. We don't have the money. I did a thing on locals today, and I said, here, I gave an example. You love dogs. You just love dogs. You got 4 dogs. You see a dog in the corner. You're just getting by. You can't put gas in your car. You're not eating to feed your dogs, right? You see a dog in the corner. You're like, boy, I really want to help that dog out. You really want to help the dog, but you can't afford another dog. You take another dog in. Then you see 3 dogs you can't take care of. You bring those dogs in. Guess what happens? Your 4 dogs, now you got 4 more dogs. You can't afford to feed the other 4. But you love dogs. I get it. You love dogs. But you loving them doesn't help them not be fed or taken care of.
Yep.
That's why I create this border problem. Like, I like people to come. My aunt's from Thailand. She came here, worked her way, got a green card. I got good friends that came here. Some came illegally. They said their wife had an anchor baby. They're hard workers. They love America. There's great examples. Don't give me the Statue of Liberty bullshit. Because before 1965, we didn't have welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, all that shit.
Yep.
Social Security was, you lived to be 52, was at 65. We didn't have the social safety net. We can't afford it. And the NGOs are bringing these people up the border. They're telling them day one, here's how to work the system.
Yeah,
we just
I
can't
agree.
do it. I like dogs. I don't have 100 dogs because I can't take care of them. Same way, and I know people go, oh, you're equating immigrants to dogs. No, it's a pretty good example for people who like animals get my point. And we just can't do it.
Let's see here. Another good comment here from Lesser Known. As someone born in 95, it's sad to see my generation look to nostalgia rather than to grow up, and yet these people can vote. He's got a good point. That is a very large voting bracket.
You know why that's funny? Because I'll see people who go, I want an 80s car. I'm like, you didn't grow up with an 80s car, did you? Like, I see them redoing 80s cars. Like, pre-66 cars, which I had, were good, right? Because I could afford old cars. Those are easy to wrench on. Anything in the 80s had all the emission stuff and vacuums and smog pumps. I see them doing that, and I'm like, they're looking for nostalgia. Because maybe their parents, they're born 95, an 80s car. They're the biggest piece of shit. You remember a car. If you made it to 80,000 miles with a car, you're like, oh, my God, this thing is awesome, right? And so you're right. It is sad when people look for nostalgia and not trying to create their own thing. And I don't blame this generation. My daughter's a year younger than him. This generation has been taught and fed that, and the core material is still the same. But the unfortunate reality is the internet is pumping into people's head nonstop, and the television, and the parents not engaging, saying this is the real world. And I can't blame all the parents either. They were sold a bill of goods. Internet or the encyclopedia at your fingertips, buddy. All they can do, and they look at porn and video games. So
yeah. Let's see here. I think there was one other good comment that I saw, and then we'll shut it down. Let me see here. Here we go. Another one from Lesser Known. Just recently, the Chinese just launched satellites over the U.S. That is something we didn't mention, but that is definitely something that just happened. And the United States isn't doing anything about it. It's no mention. No mention at all. No mention.
I haven't read a. Here's the thing. I feel like I'm pretty informed. I haven't heard that one. I know we skirted the balloon over and we shot it down. We couldn't recover it. All that nonsense. You know, airspace, in particular, satellite space. You know, all the countries know we do it, but the CCP has got a 30-year plan or 50-year plan, whatever their book is.
Yep.
And they want to dominate the world. I don't see how we're not already attached to the CCP. We're like a calf going to the milk cow. That milk cow goes away, we're done. You saw what happened during Rona when they couldn't get the goods and services out. Our shelves were empty. Now extrapolate that further. What can the CCP do, or what can we do against them? We keep talking this big game, but you never hear about the Uyghurs. Uyghurs. You hear anything about the Uyghurs? No. Let's talk about Gaza nonstop. Uyghurs? No. You're not talking about that. What are you, out of your mind? Do you hear about the Armenians, Turkey? No, nothing. Silence, crickets. Yet we're concerned about Gaza. People said death to America. Most people live in Gaza are probably normal ham and egg or just nice people, man. But unfortunately, again, my dog example. I got 4 dogs. I can't afford a 5th. I can't take care of them. I'm sorry, man. And you look at that video, I'll send it to you, man. If you guys go to Locals, you can see it for free. It talks about the countries who took in Palestinians, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, over the years and what happened and why they won't take any more. And I go, holy shit. And they reference documents and timelines, and I go, wow, good TikTok.
Yeah, Canada's not taking any either. With that being said, JT, I'm about
Merry Christmas, buddy.
I'm about done. I'm looking forward to Christmas. I got to go run some errands. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be on probably one day this week, and really appreciate everybody tuning in. We got some of the comments in there. Somebody just said, "Remember the Yugo." Oh God, that's the one that had
I remember the Yugo
spare tire on the carburetor, right?
I can't remember who made that. I remember the last thing I'll say. My buddy, this was like 90 or 91. The staff sergeant had a Hyundai, and it was one of the 80s Hyundais.
And take this call.
It was one of the 80s Hyundais, and for you guys don't remember, and it was a piece of garbage, right? Total shit. And he goes, if he couldn't fix anything. Fast forward to like, I don't know, say 10 years ago. My daughter says, I want a Hyundai. I'm like, those are garbage, right? And I go, oh, I guess they're good cars now. But it's funny how it changes because Hyundais were shit. Like it used to be Japanese products were shit. No one wanted them. Now they're top tier. Yeah. Korean products, shit. Now many Korean products is almost as good as Japanese. Chinese products, now American products, where do they sit? All right, my friends. I appreciate all you guys being here.
Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll get something out in the next couple of days. Go check out some of the other videos. We've got some stuff about the TikTok destroying the military. Got some stuff about the schmack scene going around. And it's just 2 guys, a Navy vet, Marine Corps vet. We've lived hard lives. We got on here and talk. We talk very little during the week, some kind of cryptic text messages. JT's always sending me pictures of his cows, and I'm usually sending pictures of my dogs. And that's about it. We just kind of get on here and throw different ideas at each other, and it kind of keeps it moving. Hopefully you like the timer because maybe that topic isn't something that you wanted covered, and we'll go in and edit this video and put chapters in. So if you want to go back and check that out, you can share it around. It's just 2 dudes. We don't have a bunch of stuff going on in the background. We're not getting drunk. We're not, Black Rifle Coffee Bros by any means. Yeah, we're not smoking weed. We're not getting drunk on here. We're not getting naked. None of that. So you can go find that somewhere else. It's just 2 guys that live a hard life. We both got cows, tractors, real life. We pump our own damn gas, and we complain about the same shit that you do. You guys take care. JT and Ben, we're out. Pogey Bait, hit it, like, subscribe, thumbs up, follow, all that stuff. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Ben.
Happy Kwanzaa for any of you dumbasses that believe in that.